A patrol car lights up behind you. You pull over, the officer walks up, asks for your license and registration, then comes back 5 minutes later holding a ticket. Just sign here, it's not an admission of guilt. Most drivers sign it, drive away, and immediately pay it online that night. But here's the problem. What if the ticket was missing legally required information? What if the officer cited the wrong statute? What if radar evidence was never properly documented? What if the location, speed, or vehicle description was wrong? And what if paying that ticket automatically triggers insurance increases, license points, court fees, or even a suspended license later? Because once you pay, in many places, you are effectively closing the case. So the question is, should you always pay a traffic ticket immediately? And can a simple mistake on that citation make the entire case weaker than drivers realize? Most people never even check. That mistake can cost thousands over time. Here's what you need to know before you ever pay another traffic ticket. A lot of drivers think traffic court is simple. They assume if an officer handed them a citation, then the case must already be airtight. That is not always true. They rely on you not knowing your rights. This channel makes sure you do. Subscribe and stay informed. And if you believe more people need to see this, share it and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Traffic tickets are still legal documents. Officers can make mistakes. Equipment can malfunction. Information can be incomplete. Deadlines can be missed. And sometimes the violation itself may not match the actual facts. Now, that does not automatically mean the ticket disappears. Courts often allow certain errors to be corrected. Laws vary by state. Some mistakes are minor, some are significant. But the danger is this. Drivers waive opportunities to challenge the case because they panic and pay immediately. And officers know most people will never fight it. That's why understanding the process matters. First mistake, admitting too much during the stop. An officer walks up and says, "Do you know how fast you were going?" A nervous driver answers, "Honestly, I was probably doing about 20 over." That one sentence just helped build the case against them. Many drivers think honesty will automatically get leniency. Sometimes it does, sometimes it does the exact opposite. You do not have to lie, but you also do not have to confess. A calmer response is, "Officer, I prefer not to answer questions," or "I'd like to remain silent." Why does that matter? Because drivers often hand over admissions the officer may not have fully documented yet. The less you say, the fewer statements can later appear in notes, reports, or testimony. That does not mean be rude. That does not mean refuse lawful commands. You still provide license, registration, and insurance where legally required. But talking too much is one of the biggest mistakes drivers make. Second mistake, thinking signing the ticket means guilt. You'll often hear something like, "Sign here," and immediately drivers panic. Wait, if I sign this, am I admitting guilt? In many states, no. The signature is often just a promise to appear or acknowledge receipt. But laws vary. The mistake is not the signature itself. The mistake is failing to read the citation afterward. People pay tickets without checking basic details. Wrong date, wrong vehicle, wrong location, wrong statute number, missing court information, unreadable officer notes, missing calibration records for speed detection equipment in some jurisdictions. Again, not every error destroys the case, but some errors matter a lot more than drivers realize. And once you pay, you may lose leverage to challenge any of it. That is why you should carefully review every line before making a decision. Third mistake, arguing on the roadside like it's a courtroom. This happens constantly. "Your radar was wrong. You can't prove that. I know my rights. This stop is illegal." Listen carefully. The side of the road is usually not where you win the case. Arguing aggressively rarely helps. In many situations, it only increases tension and gives officers more observations to document. Instead, stay calm and controlled. If you disagree with the citation, save it for court. A better approach sounds like this. "Officer, I understand." Or, "I'll handle it through the legal process." Short, calm, non-confrontational. Because the goal during the stop is usually not to beat the officer verbally. The goal is to avoid escalating the situation while protecting your options later. Fourth mistake, consenting to searches during a simple traffic stop. A driver gets stopped for speeding. Then comes the question, "You don't mind me taking a quick look inside the vehicle, do you?" A lot of people panic and think refusing automatically makes them look guilty. But consent changes everything. If you voluntarily consent, you may waive important protections later. That's why many rights educators recommend using calm, clear language like, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Notice how respectful that is. You're not yelling, you're not resisting, you're not physically interfering. You're simply refusing consent. And every word matters. "I do not consent" creates clarity. "To any searches" removes ambiguity. Now, depending on the situation, officers may still search under other legal exceptions. Laws vary widely. Probable cause, warrants, safety concerns, and other circumstances can change the analysis. But consenting voluntarily makes a situation much harder to challenge later. That is why drivers need to understand the difference between compliance and consent. You can comply physically without agreeing legally. That distinction matters. Fifth mistake, not knowing when to stop talking completely. Sometimes a traffic stop becomes more serious. Maybe the officer starts asking unrelated questions. "Where are you coming from? Have you had anything to drink? Is there anything illegal in the car?" At that point, many drivers talk themselves into deeper problems. They start over-explaining, they contradict themselves, they guess, they ramble. That can turn a minor stop into a much bigger investigation. One of the safest phrases in many situations is, "I exercise my right to remain silent," or "I want to speak to a lawyer." Those phrases matter because they clearly communicate your intent. "I exercise my right" shows you are affirmatively invoking protections. "Remain silent" signals you are stopping questioning participation. "I want a lawyer" invokes counsel protections in many legal contexts. But timing and laws matter. Courts sometimes analyze exactly how rights were invoked. State laws differ. Federal law differs. Facts matter. So stay calm and be clear. Do not argue constitutional law on the roadside. And never physically resist officers even if you believe the stop is unlawful. Fight legal issues in court, not with force. Another major mistake drivers make is assuming small tickets stay small. One speeding ticket can trigger higher insurance premiums, points on your license, mandatory driving courses, license suspension risks for repeat offenses, commercial driver consequences, employment issues for certain jobs. That's why blindly paying citations can become extremely expensive over time. Sometimes consulting a traffic attorney is worth it, especially for serious violations, commercial licenses, reckless driving allegations, or repeated citations. And here's something many people never realize. Some jurisdictions reduce or dismiss tickets if drivers challenge them properly, negotiate alternatives, or identify weaknesses in the case. Not always, not guaranteed, but it happens far more often than most drivers think. The key is understanding you actually have options. Now let's talk about what you should avoid during every stop. Do not make sudden movements. Do not reach around unexpectedly. Do not interrupt aggressively. Do not insult officers. Do not physically resist. Do not try to win the roadside debate. And do not volunteer information that was never asked for. Stay calm, keep your hands visible, comply with lawful commands, protect your rights respectfully. That balance matters. And remember this, a ticket is not automatically perfect just because it was issued. It is still a legal document. It is still subject to procedures, and procedures matter. But every case is different. Some tickets are fully valid. Some errors are harmless. Some defenses fail completely. Some challenges succeed. Laws vary by states, court, and situation, so this is educational information, not personal legal advice. But the safest framework is simple. Stay calm, provide required documents, do not admit unnecessary facts, do not consent to searches, do not argue on the roadside. Ask if you are free to leave if the stop continues unnecessarily. Remain silent when appropriate. Request a lawyer if questioning becomes serious. Because the biggest mistake many drivers make is assuming the case is already over the second the officer hands them a ticket. Sometimes the most expensive thing you can do is pay immediately without ever checking whether the ticket was legally solid in the first place. And in the next video, we're breaking down another traffic stop mistake drivers make every day. The one sentence people say during DUI questioning that officers are trained to use against them later in court.